When did Israeli political discourse become so toxic? As always, we begin with our quick fire round, 30 seconds each to lay out your initial stance on the matter, and we'll pick up the debate from there. So, Mr. Yemini, please take the lead.
Okay, well, it's getting too harsh. I mean, we have a problem. We have a problem because we are speaking about a real debate that is taking place in Israel. It did not begin now. It's for many years that so many people are looking for a kind of reform. And when it's coming, it's not what I mean, I'm supporting a reform, but not this kind of reform. So the whole debate is totally heated. We are crossing the red line, and it's totally needless. I think it is counterproductive, and that's what's happening here.
Okay, and we'll obviously elaborate on that in a split second. Professor Yonah, your take?
Well, of course, the tension is mounting, and the split in the Israeli society is growing ever deeper and wider. So in this context, I think that there is no room for statements that we recently heard, actually a few days ago, yesterday, and they ought to be outrightly condemned.
Okay, last but not least, Eli Vered Hazan, your thoughts?
Yeah, we are living in a new era because in the past, the right wing used to be, people used to accuse the right wing of using a very vulgar language. And what we are seeing right now, it's a severe incitement, not against only the prime minister, but against other ministers, delegitimization of this government. And I truly believe that this time the left wing is in a moral bankruptcy because, Yitzhak Ben Aaron said in 1977, that if that's the people's verdict, he is not respecting that, and that's what we are facing right now.
Okay, and just a brief recap of the events: death threats against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on behalf of a prominent left-wing lawyer and former combat pilot. Have been investigated by the government over that, and obviously creating a ripple effect here with the Prime Minister calling on opposition leaders to condemn this. Okay, so let's feel free to interact from this point onwards. Who is to blame for those levels of toxic discourse, Mr. Yemini?
Unfortunately, the two sides should be blamed. Why I'm saying two sides? Because for so many years we are asking for a kind of reform, and it was always rejected, and they were always saying no. It's the destruction of this whole judicial system, and now when it's coming, the people who just now initiated the new reform do not even want to hear the people who are saying no. We did not mean this kind of reform, and this is part of the. So both sides are to be blamed in this kind of blame game.
So, Professor Yonah, if both sides are to be blamed, are both sides benefiting from those levels?
I don't know whether the discussion, should concern whose blame is it. I mean, as I was saying before, that we are witnessing mounting tension in Israeli society. The issue of the judicial reform, of course, it is one component indicating the deep, how to put it, abyss that we are witnessing here in the Israeli society. So I would like to put, kind of a general way, people in charge, whether they are right-wingers or left-wingers, ought to be responsible and be careful and not voicing such statements as death threats that you mentioned before, because it can actually lead to a real physical violence. This is the issue. Now, since my friend here from the Likud party, was talking about, that the Israeli public, or at least the left, is not willing to accept the results of the election, so forth and so on. I want just, to set the record straight, if we're talking about political violence, then there's no symmetry whatsoever between left and right camps here in Israel. When we're talking about political violence, let us remember the Avrumshi in 1983 killing one of the demonstrators of the peace now, and of course the glaring example, the Rabin's assassination. Here, I'm not saying, of course, that that there's in any way we can support a statement such as this when it's coming from the left camp, and even no matter, that it was said, kind of hypothetical and stuff like that. And this political context, no place and no room for such statement, though the people who actually made this statement regretted it and took it away from the Facebook and so forth and so on. But again, the initial act of placing such statement is inexcusable, I believe.
Eli, I'm sure you have something to say.
Yes, of course. First of all, I would like to refer to the words of Yossi Yonah. I will never forget this season. I will not forget the persecution of right-wingers, and especially Menachem Begin when he was portrayed as a fascist in the 1950s and 60s. And I will never forget the treatment to those who opposed the disengagement, including arresting of teenagers during this period. In this time, Yossi, you must admit it is the fault of the leftist politicians in Israel and the Israeli journalists. Not all of them, of course. I don't want to generalize, because since the minute after the election, it was a demonization and a delegitimization of the right bloc. Moreover, we promised before the election that we are going into the judicial reform. We've got the trust of the people. We've got a big majority, by the way, thanks to the mistakes of Meretz and Labour. But in any case, we have the trust of the majority, and we have the legitimacy of the majority to promote our values, our promises. And what we are facing is not only those, Ze'ev Raz and the others. Please do not forget what Raviv Drucker has been said, and not only him, many others, it doesn't seem all the time. And at this time, I think this is the fault of the left wing, and let's stop it. I mean, I was I would say, happy to see the denounce of many leftist politicians this time against these evil words that was targeted Netanyahu.
But Mr. Yemini, Professor Yonah is saying that there is one side of the political aisle where violence is more prevalent. Is that so?
First of all, yes. Speaking about what happened in Israel since the foundation of Israel up to now, yes, we are speaking mainly about violence coming from right-wingers. But we have to bear in mind that when we are speaking about what happened in the last 3 days, it's not coming from marginal people from the left. We are speaking about ex-prime minister who compared the president of the state to Neville Chamberlain. We are speaking about people who had death threats. So we cannot ignore it. We cannot ignore it. And part of the problem is that we give the floor many times to who? To the extremists. I mean, we do not hear actually many times the majority. We hear 10% from each side. And concerning what my friend from the Likud said, no, you do not have the majority. I have to tell you something. I mean, yes, you won the election. The right-wing religious bloc won the election, needless to speak about it. Of course, it happened. But you do not have the majority to this kind of reform. And this kind of reform, even according to polls, is not supported by the majority of the people. It's not, and I'm speaking from a point of view of someone who criticized again and again and again the judicial system. No, not me, not Professor Daniel Friedman, not others who supported the reform. They never imagined that this is going to be the reform. It's not, you do not have the majority. Let's put it on the table.
So,
I would like to ask you, Eli, if you allow me, of course, I would like to ask you, Ben-Dror, before the election, do you agree that all the right-wing parties, all the Bibi blocs said without any exclusion that we are going into the judicial reforms in in a very strong way, including Yariv Levin, including Amir Ohana. Do you agree with it or not?
No. I agree that you spoke about it, and I do remember wait. No. Let me finish. When Amsalem, when Knesset member Amsalem presented his own plan, it was immediately rejected by the Likud spokesperson. So let's not forget it. It was Bezalel Smotrich who presented something. No. They rejected. They said no. He is not. He is not. No, they said immediately.
Seems to me you tend to forget.
He does not speak on our behalf.
Please, Professor.
So you cannot say that people voted for this kind of reform. Not at all. You do not.
You tend to forget. Ben-Dror, you tend to forget. Sorry, Yossi, let me just reply. You tend to forget that many of the politicians...
Gentlemen, we want to hear all of you. Eli, please wrap up in a sentence so we can hear Professor Yonah before the break.
But Ben-Dror tend to forget that many of the politicians of the anti-Bibi bloc, such as Gideon Sa'ar,
but we're talking inside baseball now, where the topic on the agenda is full-on death threats to political figures, to political leaders. Professor Yonah, in the brief time we have left.
Yeah, 2 points. This is why I wanted to divorce it from this specific reform that is being put on the table. And I said, and I was referring to what you were talking about. You know, the very fact that there is mounting attention in Israeli society, and there is the rife, like the gap between the two camps, and actually might lead to some violence, and we are referring to that. Now, my friends, rightfully so, bringing this issue of the reform on the table and making it kind of the central, if you wish, component of our discussion. So I would like to make a small comment. I don't know whether there was a majority, there wasn't a majority, but the very fact that we're going to have some kind of reform that either going to cancel out the very idea of judicial review, or to come up with a very diluted interpretation of judicial review, that would be a real problem for all of us. And irrespective, and I would like to make this point very clear, irrespective of whether there is a majority or not, liberal democracy, is something different.
Professor Yonah, we have to take a break, but when we get back, we will be talking if there is a point where a protest should become less civil, quote unquote. A quick break, and we're back. Welcome back to the summit. Still with us, Eli Vered Hazan, Professor Yossi Yonah, and Ben-Dror Yemini. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for staying with us. We're also, of course, staying on topic. But before we dive back to our conversation, let's take a listen to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressing those death threats this morning. Is Netanyahu genuinely worried, or is it being used as a distraction, so to speak? Let's take a listen.
In recent weeks, we have witnessed a growing wave of incitement. More borders are crossed every day, and it seems that all the boundaries have been crossed, with threats to elected officials and me, but it turns out not, because today we heard and saw a threat to assassinate, an explicit threat to assassinate a prime minister in Israel. I know there is a debate about what endangers democracy, but it is not something that is subject to debate. This is a real danger to democracy. I expect law enforcement and security officials who came out clearly and acutely during the time of the previous government about minor phenomena that were far less serious, to come out with at least the same severity and the same sharpness against this serious phenomenon. And I also expect the leaders of the opposition to speak with the same firmness and same intensity that I spoke. We are in difficult times, and we all need to do what is required of us as responsible public representatives. You must not be silent on this matter.
Gentlemen, no other way to put it is Benjamin Netanyahu in real danger. Another quick fire round, and we pick up from there. Eli, take the lead, please.
Yeah, I truly believe so, because don't forget, there are a very, I would say, problematic people on the other side. Think about it. Major General in the Israeli Air Force speaking out loud in these very hard words, and it can come into action. It is very dangerous, and I suppose that the Israeli police must react as if those death threats are real, and must do something against it.
Yes, we will talk more about the police intervention, yes, no, in a split second. Ben-Dror Yemini, the floor is yours.
Every society, every community, we have this kind of extremist who might be, in a way, influenced by this kind of irresponsible declaration. So, but I don't think that something is going to happen. I mean, he's well guarded, Mr. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But the tension is mounting, as my friend Professor Yonah said, and this is the main problem. I mean, you don't have to wait that something will happen.
Right.
It's happening.
Right.
The declarations are the story.
Yes, Professor Yonah?
I fully agree. I don't think that Netanyahu is real life danger here, but that doesn't mean that we have to be tolerant to such declarations, such a statement. As I said before, ought to be condemned. Yeah, if there is a need for police investigation, it ought to be done. No doubt about that. But again, is there a tangible threat to Netanyahu's life? I don't think so, and I'm happy. Actually, it is not, that I'm regretting that. I'm saying I'm happy that he's not facing a tangible life threat.
Of course, I at least hope that this is a joint sentiment for everyone. And in this respect, gentlemen, let's zoom in on the law enforcement involvement here. Do you think, Mr. Yemini, that law enforcement authorities are perhaps more attentive to toxic speech on one side of the political aisle? Is there a double standard?
Look, we had this kind of declaration from the son of Benjamin Netanyahu, Yair Netanyahu, that a kind of threat that nobody really took seriously, and he was not actually summoned to any kind of investigation. And so people say, oh, well, it's a kind of double standard. Sometimes, yes, there is a double standard. Sometimes it's a problem. But I mean, again, we give the floor to the extremists, and this is part of the problem. And what we are facing right now, I mean, in 90%, this is a democracy. I mean, a debate with mounting tension and so on. This is democracy. But we have this kind of extremists from both sides who are taking the debate to some other places. We don't need it. And it might be dangerous. Let's admit it. It might be dangerous for all of us.
Yeah, and also dangerous, perhaps, is police intervention. Will police intervention and speech moderation undermine democracy, Eli?
No, I want to refer to something before I reply to you. I remember that a few months ago, an Israeli lady sent threats to Naftali Bennett and was arrested. And I'm asking myself whether Ze'ev Raz or those others, maybe Ehud Barak, maybe not, will be questions, not to mention arrested, and I simply don't know. And the tolerance that we are seeing into these kind of people is quite problematic, I would say.
Professor Yonah, let's go back to this civil uprising we're seeing now. Is there a point where a protest should become less civil?
No, I don't endorse your kind of implicit or explicit suggestion that it would be, that would be more violent or less civil as you're describing it. I'm fully supporting the right of people to demonstrate, but of course within the purviews of the laws. No, I don't see any justification to break the law when we're protesting. As you probably know, I was a chief advisor to the social protest of 2011. Never endorsed actions that would be external to the law or violating the law. I'm for a peaceful demonstration, forceful, massive demonstrations, but I would not endorse, and I don't endorse taking actions that would violate the laws.
No, I wasn't intending to pull you by the tongue there. Just again, this battle is being described in such dramatic features. The future of the state of Israel. Yeah.
Eli, with your permission, if anything, what I would think that people in charge, if anything, they have to quell the storm and not to augment it. They have to put out a fire, not to put gasoline on it. I mean, because the tension is very mounting, and we've got to manage our disputes, deep disputes, in a civil way.
Mr. Yemini,
civilized way.
Yeah, is there a way to scale back those levels of violent rhetoric, or have we reached a point of no return?
Yes, no. We can scale it down, and I think it's very simple. There should be a kind of communication between the people, between people like Simcha Rotman, who is heading the Constitutional Committee of the Knesset, and Yariv Levin, the Justice Minister, and the opposition. They should talk, and the very fact that they do not speak, and the very fact that they even refuse to the proposal of the president of the state of 2 weeks, only 2 weeks of delay. Come on, we waited so many years. You cannot wait 2 more weeks. They should speak in order to lift down the tension that is taking place now.
Eli Vered Hazan, concluding remarks.
I don't know what to say, because I'm listening to Ben-Dror, and was wondering whether the left wing wanted any kind of discussion, and I don't think so, because Yariv Levin and Prime Minister Netanyahu already declared that any dispute, any discussion will be held in the Constitution Committee. We did not limit anyone from coming to this committee and to say whatever he wants to say. And I'm expecting, in 1992, when we promoted the two basic laws, no one asked anyone from the public how to do it and when to do it and in what circumstances.
I guess you see, just as we do, the debate which is taking place in the Constitutional Commission. No, it's not a debate.
Yes,
no.
but the debate that is happening in the framework.
Did we avoid from anyone of coming to say his words?
Well, the political debate happening in the guarded walls of Parliament is trickling down to the street, far less guarded, that's for certain. Ben-Dror Yemini, Professor Yossi Yonah, and Eli Vered Hazan, thank you so very much